everything went wrong. The bird calls, the famous bird calls in the Pastoral, were almost certainly laughed at and jeered and booed. The audience said, oh, Beethoven's so eccentric. A young soprano sang one of his concert arias, fluffed the top note, ran running from the stage in tears to be comforted by her mother off stage. He played piano in the final piece, the choral fantasia. Because it was already so late, the music director said to him, for goodness sake, Ludwig, cut the piece, don't play it. Beethoven said, I am playing it. But they agreed at least to drop the repeat of the second variation. The orchestra remembered, Beethoven forgot. Chaos. It went off the rails. The whole evening, for Beethoven, musically and financially, was a disaster. And yet, the audience heard for the first time Beethoven's Fifth, Beethoven's Pastoral. Imagine being a fly on the wall at that concert.
Even if the Viennese audience didn't appreciate it at the time, they were in the presence of a composer who was to change the course of musical history. After that concert in 1808, Beethoven's hearing continued to deteriorate, and as it did, he became more eccentric and reclusive. He didn't care about his appearance, his hair was wild, and he became less tolerant. There's even a story that they thought he was a tramp and was arrested. But the stream of great works continued.
He was well known for walking around Vienna, which, let's face it, was the capital city of the Habsburg Empire, seat of the Holy Roman Emperor, formal, correct, proper. Beethoven would walk around without a wig, hair all over the place, clothes that needed repair. He was well known for wearing the same overcoat until it wore out. He simply didn't care. His music was often mocked, often laughed at, but for his funeral, 20,000 people turned out onto the streets of Vienna, more than had ever turned out onto the streets of that great city. As the coffin set out, a mini riot began as people reached for it, tried to get to it, and the army was called out to restrain the crowds. A lot of people were quite surprised at this because they hadn't realized just how popular Beethoven is. Even today, if impresarios want to fill a concert hall, put on Beethoven, it'll get them in.
I think listening to this symphony can enable people to be transported to a place where they connect with nature and they connect with spirituality in a way that one can't find in everyday life. And to spend a half an hour with this piece, or even listening to one movement, you can suddenly be transported to a completely different world. And it's a world filled with joy and with peace. And I think in this day and age, you can't beat that.
The hymn of thanks that crowns the finale of Beethoven's Sixth Pastoral Symphony. It was played by the BBC National Orchestra of Wales, conducted by Christian Gansch. Now, if you'd like to hear a recording of this amazing music, here's the Great Music Show's recommendations. Beethoven's symphonies are at the heart of every great orchestra's repertoire. Herbert von Karajan's 1961 recordings of all 9 with the Berlin Philharmonic stands as one of the great recording landmarks. You can't go wrong here. A more recent recording by the same orchestra under Claudio Abbado is much admired, as is Sir Simon Rattle's complete set of Beethoven symphonies with another of Europe's great orchestras, the Vienna Philharmonic. For an orchestral sound closer to Beethoven's time, there are terrific recordings by period specialists like the London Classical Players under Sir Roger Norrington and Sir John Eliot Gardner's Orchestre Révolutionnaire et Romantique. Try saying that one after a couple of drinks. For more information on Beethoven and the Pastoral Symphony, visit bbc.co.uk/classicaltv, where you'll also find our great music show, Competition. Next time I'll be taking a look at one of Britain's best-loved pieces of music, Elgar's Cello Concerto, written at a time when Elgar and the world were coming to terms with life after the First World War. Let's sign off today with one of Beethoven's contemporaries who said of him, "I've never before seen a more complete, energetic and intense artist." Perhaps he was the greatest of them all.